Why do people fail interviews? There's some statistic out there, and this is mostly being garnered from the internet. So it's more a question of this is the general attitude rather than specific numbers. Okay, so there might be one or two things here to avoid. Okay, six main groups, different people, different categories, different priorities. But number one, lack of preparation. Number two, poor communication. And some of these are interconnected. Number three, not demonstrating value. Number four, lack of cultural fit. Five, poor first impressions. And six, not asking questions. And the final statistic is something that might be worth hanging around for. Okay, lack of preparation. So this is easy to resolve. Prepare. Prepare more. Look at the other aspects, look at the other failures, build them all into your interview preparation practice and attitude. Okay, up to 85% fail interviews because they're not well prepared. I mean, no shit, Sherlock. 48% failed directly as a result of poor preparation. So, preparation isn't just what happens in the interview room, there's a whole range of things where you're preparing. Okay, so you need to make sure that you're nailing everything. Lack of company research. This is another popular one, and this is going to lead on to lack of questions at the end. So, lack of company research hits 47% failure rate. These things are so easy to remedy. It's ridiculous how we've got these numbers. And number two, poor communication. This one's a little bit more complicated because as a person, your natural characteristics are going to come through, but there are certain things that we can do to ensure that you can get your body language, your communication under control. Okay, so 60% are rejected because of poor communication. What sort of communication problems are these? 33% because they ramble. Okay, there's no structure to the answer. 67% because they have poor eye contact. Again, it's a difficult one that you need to practice a little bit, but the more confident you are, the better you can control your eye contact. 39% say that not being comfortable or smiling are red flags. This depends on your demeanour. Okay, so it might be fair, might not be fair. My smile's not particularly pretty. I don't really want to give it to anyone, but there you go. 86 fail because of rudeness, and rudeness applies to anyone in the process. And I'll take this back to the recruiter. The recruiter is working for the employer, not you. So being polite to the recruiter, being polite to the receptionist, to the cleaner, anybody in the building that you're going to, anyone that you talk to in connection with the job, they are part of the process. And if they're not directly part, assume that they are. Even go as far as to say, if you're taking a train and the station is close, assume that you're going to see people from the office on that train. It might be a little bit extreme, but you'll kick yourself if your balls up. Not demonstrating value. Lack of clear answers, clear examples, clear details. Be sure that you know you're talking about specific projects. Be sure of the numbers. Be sure of what's happened. If you don't have this data, you're going to sound fuzzy. It's not going to sound convincing. Lack of cohesion between answers. Be sure that all your answers link together. That if you say something in one answer, for example, that your strength is that you manage pressure, that you thrive off pressure. If I start giving you pressure, if I start putting you under pressure, giving you rapid fire questions, I don't want to see you buckle. I want to see you thrive. 78% of candidates admit to lying, and hiring managers claim to be able to detect 66% of these lies. Don't lie, I guess, is the answer there. Lack of cultural fit. This is from your side. You're applying to the company. Be sure you research the company. Be sure you know what their culture is. 52% of employers Cite poor hygiene as a problem. Yeah, I really have got to take a minute there. 47% failed because they lack enough information about the company. Company information is so free. Social media, mission statements, web pages. If you can't find the information about the company, I mean, come on, why are you even going there? Unable to read the room. There's a video that I've got that's already posted talking about the tell me about yourself question and the different stages of the interview and the different people you're talking to at different stages and how that affects how you answer the questions. Understand who you're talking to, understand how you're going to respond. If you don't read the room well, you've blown it. Poor first impressions. Hygiene comes into that one. And 71% of hiring managers will reject people for poor attire. Okay, this again is one of the research questions that you can research what the attire of the company is, what's their uniform, how do people dress in head office, even if this means that you go down to their office the day before or a few days before to see what people are wearing. Phone the company up, ask them. They're not going to tell you to bugger off because you're showing interest, you're showing initiative. Dear me, make sure that you're dressed appropriately. Rudeness, we've touched on rudeness. You don't know who you're talking to. When it comes to the process, just make sure you're not being rude to anyone. Do not arrive late. That applies for Zoom meetings or face-to-face meetings. Do a dry run. Make sure you know how to get to the building. Check the train times. Take an earlier train. But don't do what I did and don't have a double espresso before the interview. That might not be a good idea. But do a dry run. Your body language when you walk into the room, your eye contact, these are going to come from being prepared. If you're confident in the answers that you're going to give, your body language will change. You can focus a little bit more on the body language, but in the right way. You know that you can think about the body language and you can control the body language because you know you've got the answers. They're not going to throw you with the answers. You're not the rabbit in the headlights. And again, 33% of hiring managers make a decision in the first 90 seconds, 30% in the first 5 minutes. So make sure that when you go in there, you've got a good handshake, you're making eye contact, you're smiling, you're looking at everybody in the room. Number 6, not asking questions. You want to work for the company. What do you want to know about the company? Is it good? The interview is a two-way process. You're interviewing the company as much as they're interviewing you. They've got all, and look at their website. They put all the positives, just like you're putting all the positives in the interview. Yeah, it's marketing. They're putting all their positives on the website. Look at the news, look for bad stories, ask them how they reacted to a particular story that was negative. If you're not happy with their response, walk away. There's plenty of other jobs. Okay, 40% cite lack of enthusiasm as a reason to reject candidates. Not asking questions is a sign that you're not enthusiastic. 70% of people who fail to ask questions fail to get the job. I'm surprised it's that low. 45% of employers doubt a candidate's eagerness if they don't ask questions, and make sure the questions are good ones. Also, make sure the questions are relevant to you. There's been a bit of backlash, but if something is important to you, ask the question. If it's timesheets, time management, time off because you've got family outside commitments, ask the bloody question. You need to be sure before the contract comes along that you've got the information you need from the employer. It's a sign of not being prepared. Okay. And this is the big one that I promised at the beginning. So 93% of candidates admit to interview anxiety. a huge part of that anxiety comes because you don't know what questions are going to come to you. You don't know how to make yourself confident. You don't know how to prepare properly. Okay, the preparation is easy. Once you're prepared and you have the answers under control, the body language comes along. Asking questions, that's a byproduct of knowing the answers, knowing who you are, knowing what you want. Once you've got these resolved, the anxiety is going to reduce. Once you know you've got good questions, anxiety is going to reduce. If you need a hand to reduce that anxiety, so be it. Get yourself a coach. But 93% of candidates admit to interview anxiety. Make the interview fun. Control the interview. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and feel free to drop a comment. And also, I'll put a link to the Tell Me About Yourself question that looks at different stages of the interview and the different people that you're likely to be communicating with in the interview.